Hi there. I'm a little bit crooked because I'm trying to get this in while it's fresh in my head. I'm Valerie Ling. I'm a clinical psychologist. I also these days like to think of myself as a burnout prevention coach. I wanted to give you some insight into the kinds of research and rubrics that I use in my work. This morning is a morning for me where I'm actually doing a lot of my burnout prevention work, and I wanted to provide you with some ideas of how I do my work. So the first thing I do, just draw one for myself, is to actually ask myself, what industry am I looking at? What's the research tell me about the key indicators for burnout in that particular industry or that particular population? I can tell you that for psychologists, there's something that we call schema, which leads into things like perfectionism, unrelenting standards, subjugation of our needs, and our self-sacrifice, for example. Okay, I can tell you that for teachers, the issue of vicarious trauma in classroom experiences is a really important thing to look at. I can tell you that for doctors, the issue of culture, hospital culture, what's the word when people are suing one another? The legal situations that they find themselves and the overarching power of being reported and seen contributes. So the first thing I do is I actually look at the industry. I look and see what are the indicators that tells me that is really important to look at when we're looking at burnout, because resilience, individual resilience is not enough to combat burnout. You need to understand the industry and you need to understand the work situation. The second thing I look at is a really simple formula. 3 things. I look at the individual factors, I look at the work factors, and I look, like I said, at the organizational and industry factors. The individual factors I'm looking for is resourcing. I'm actually looking to see how are all of those individual resources, all the tanks that I talk about in my burnout stuff, you know, your hygiene level, sleep hygiene, eating, exercise, mental coping strategies, stress profile, etc., 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 relationship network, etc. I look at resourcing. But when it comes to looking at work, I dig into Maslow's theory of burnout. It's really, really important to understand that. And there are 6 pillars we need to look at. We need to look at the degree of control that the person has, reward factors, fairness, community, workload, but more importantly, equally important, work type. Always forget 6, and like it'll always be like one of them. Hang on. Of course. How can I forget this one? Values. Okay. Finally, when I look at the organization and the industry, this feeds into it, so it gives me a deep understanding of what's really at the heart of the issue from an organization. But I look very closely at the ethos that the organization has. And then I look at communication structures that they have. And then very broadly, I look at some of the organizational factors, such as the way that it's structured, leadership, feedback, etc., etc. Okay? So when I'm doing this work, essentially what I'm looking for is, it's a question of, number one, how much resourcing are in these 3 areas, how much congruence versus clashingness. I can't think of the opposite of congruence. Oh my word. How much it's out of alignment, misalignment. It's a question of fit as well. And then what we work on is not the hopelessness that sits in the organization, although I'm very excited to be called in at the moment to think tank with a couple of organizations to help them to shift culture. But we we look at manipulating the ingredients in a person's resource, and then we look at an individual level, how can they actually negotiate what's happening in their work environment with regards to these 6 things. And it's not always about making big changes, as in going to your boss and demanding that I get paid more. For example, it's about negotiating the type of work you do so that psychologically you can feel like I can tick off that this is a fair job or that it provides me with a reward. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you because I just got off my first consult, which was a burnout consult, and we today actually worked very specifically here, linking what this person was finding difficult here and in one of the organization structures, right? So trying to figure out, okay, where exactly in the community tank in the workload was being pushed at this point in time that was giving them a sense of distress. All right, I just wanted to share it with you. Have a great day. Be the change. And maybe let me know what your thoughts are about this framework.